You're listening to the Three Ropes Podcast with Scott Fineout. On the HTW Network.
Tom Mitchell.
Scott Fineout, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for being here today. You know, on the second, we've made it to 2 episodes so far without being canceled. I don't know if that's a brag. It should be.
It should be a brag. Yeah, I agree.
If you watch the first one, it should be a brag. I'll tell you that. But hey, man, I really appreciate you coming in here. And, you know, you're one of my favorite, I got to be honest, you're one of my favorite people in wrestling that I've met. And, you know, I really liked working with you at PPW. I thought it was really a good time that we both had, and we both learned a lot from each other. So I'm like, you know, when I get on, you know, Alex is like, you got to do a podcast. And I was like, all right, well, I'll do a podcast, but I want to talk to the people that, like, you know, meant a lot to me in wrestling. And you're definitely up there. So I really appreciate you being here and just kind of divulging your life, so to speak. So thanks, man. It means a lot.
I appreciate you having me on. I knew that you talked about doing a podcast for a while, so it's perfect now with High Tension that Alex gave you the opportunity, and I'm honored to be one of your first guests. Well, second guest, I should say.
Yeah, the first one was a bit bumpy, and a lot of people are going to watch that and go, oh my goodness. And I'm still here. You know, it's the definition of, like, you know, you got to keep getting them up. You know, you're going to get knocked down. I certainly did. But yeah, you know, it's something we'll learn. So look, you grew up in York, Pennsylvania. What is that like? What is there to do out there?
So York, is a nice sized town. I really liked it because it's not like complete like country. Like the Walmart's like 5-10 minutes from my house. Like there's like all like the main chain restaurants right there and stuff. But it's not like that safe feel where it's like I don't feel like safe at night, let's say, or like I'm constantly like being kept up by like I don't know, like police sirens or like anything crazy like that. Like so, it's a really nice town because I'm like I don't know, it's the perfect size between like a suburban housing. So I just really liked it. Just growing up in York, for lack of a better term.
I find that there's like a different level of cities, right? Like if you have a sports team, if you have like 4 sports teams, you're like a huge city. If you have like 1 sports team, you're getting there. You get like a minor league city, but you guys have the fast food. And I know you're not a big fast food guy, but it shows the demographics of the area. Man, there's people here. They're going to sit in line and eat. And I've always found like, hey man, I need to live in at least a place that's got like a Wendy's or a Burger King. Even if I don't frequent it, it means that there's people around. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But yeah, man, it's cool. And your childhood kind of normal. It seems like me and you kind of grew up similar in where we had, you know, a strong family support and everything like that. What was your childhood growing up? Like you have a couple brothers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have an older brother and a younger brother. And us three we were all like big wrestling fans when we were growing up. Kind of more when we got towards high school. They would still watch it more in a more casual way, but you know, still fully invested, consistently watching it. But wrestling played a huge part in our lives growing up. My uncle was the one who actually got us involved in wrestling when we were 3. I remember my very first moment in wrestling. I was sitting in my mom's bed and we were watching WrestleMania 18, and The Rock and Hulk Hogan were staring down. No idea who those two were at the time. I was like 3 years old, but I just remember feeling something, like just feeling some kind of way when they're staring and like everyone was cheering. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. So that was my introduction to wrestling. And yeah, growing up, did sports. Was a singer actually too growing up. Was in chorus, did musicals, plays. So I was pretty well versed in a bunch of stuff growing up.
You ever think about like getting in a band, or were you kind of like just
I wasn't in a band actually.
Yeah,
I was a drummer in a band. My older brother was the lead singer, and a couple of our buddies were a guitar and bassist. We had a couple of songs out. We did a concert too, but it didn't really go anywhere. Our bassist moved to Tennessee, I believe, and then yeah, I just got really busy with a bunch of other projects. Like I said, I was involved in like football, track at the time, and then of course musicals and stuff. So I was just spread way too thin. I was like, band kind of had to take a back seat.
Yeah, you kind of been I know you as like a creative guy, you know, like, and you're always like trying. I do that too. Like I get into the plans where I'm like, okay, let's do a project, and it's so great to start, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I've got 7 projects and I don't know how I'm going to balance all these things. And I guess that's what being a drummer helps too, right? You have to keep a lot of things in your head at the same time. You that kind of guy?
Yeah. So my parents always joke with me. They're like, you always have 50 things going on at once, and like you can't function if you don't have 50 things going on. Um, Nowadays, like that's kind of cooled down, but definitely growing up, I was like, oh, like I need to be doing this. Like I didn't like having free time because I was like, oh, that's time I could be doing something more productive or like bettering myself.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic and stuff, like I hadn't really had a choice but just kind of like relax, stay home. So.
How is that? How has the pandemic kind of shifted your opinion? I mean, I hear a lot of people go, "Man, I was going crazy, and I was working hard, and I was working too hard, and I had to shift back." And then I hear other people say, "You know what? I wasn't pushing myself hard enough, and I need to really get on my game and really start pushing myself." How is that? How's the pandemic affected you? What have you learned about yourself during this time?
So the pandemic for me, when like it first started, I was like, oh my God, like pretty much a bunch of things in like my personal world were like coming down, like PPW obviously. They started canceling shows. My college graduation got canceled. I was joining the tennis team at the time because like I said, I need like 50 things to do at all times. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
still want to be an athlete. Let's do tennis. That got canceled.
Right.
Um, and then of course like all in-person classes at a time. So for me, it was just really difficult because I like seeing my friends at school. I feel like that got taken away from me, and I was just like, man, like this just feels so wrong. I feel like I got robbed of like my last few months of college, like the college experience. So it was pretty tough for me at first, and like not being able to graduate with my friends, like having to have a virtual graduation that like maybe a quarter of my class showed up to. It was just tough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always interesting. You know, you go to college for so long and you're like, you got it in your head, like, man, I know what it's gonna look like when I walk across that stage. I know how I'm gonna feel. I've got at least for me, I had all these like preconceived things where it's like, oh yeah, this is how it's gonna feel because I watched it in the TV shows or whatever. I
Mhm.
seen somebody else do it. It's gotta be a shift up. And did you take any classes online? Did you have to end college? Where were we in the timeline there? Were you taking classes online through Zoom and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, so starting like the middle of March, I graduated about middle May. And so from middle of March to middle early May, it was Zoom University at that point where I just had to meet with my teachers. Some teachers made classes like require that you be there, and others were just like, yeah, like you can show up, like I'll still present a lecture, but just make sure that you take the test. So at that point, as a senior, I was just like, oh, I'm clocked out. Like I don't want to even be here. It was like earth science classes as a sport management major. It's just like I don't need to be in that class. So
No, I get it, dude. Talk about that for a minute about like the sports management thing. Like in high school, were you the jock? Were you the guy that like played all the time, or were you like who were you in high school? Were you the artsy guy, the popular dude? Who were you?
um, it's funny because I kind of had a hand in like every friend group, like because I was like I got to hang out with, like the kids, like the popular kids, the jocks. Like I pretty much like hung out with everybody, but like I wasn't really like attached to one group.
Right,
It was nice because like I felt like I could kind of like just shift around groups and not really have an issue, but at the same time, it was like wasn't really close to too many people in high school. So like I got a lot of friends, but I didn't have a lot of close friends. So
right.
it was. I mean, I liked it though. I don't really have any regrets about that because I enjoyed just being able to like hang out with everybody and kind of like I wanted to like break down like the like walls of like oh like football player oh he's doing musical oh as a guy he must be gay was like one of like the big like misconceptions that I always heard in high school and I was just like no like I just enjoy like music like I don't care what other people think and like
Yep.
people who would really judge me they're not gonna be there for me the next like 3 or 5 years and those people aren't so.
You know, that doesn't surprise me. You know, when I met you first, I told Paul, I go, wow, like this guy seems older. Like you're mature for your age and you get it. Like and it's not like, oh, he's so mature. It's like you get it. You understand how life works where, you know, I'm gonna do something and I want to have fun doing it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But I'm gonna continue to do it. And I love that about you. And you seem really put together. Does that come from like your parents, like a good upbringing there, or is that just something you've always strongly willed? Like, this is me.
I believe it was a combination of things. So obviously my upbringing had a big part to do with like the man I turn into nowadays. But also it's just like some mental things because like me and my brothers aren't like the exact same, even though we all had like the same upbringing. Like we're all like very different from each other. So I mean, there's definitely that own personal side to it where I like had like that will to just kind of be like, you know what, I don't care what other people think about me. But also like my mom and dad both just being like, yeah, like pursue your passions, like just follow your dreams. You can do anything that you want, kind of deal. So definitely did a mixture of the both.
Well, one thing you did do in high school that I want to get into is you played for the Trojans, right, of York Suburban. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did I do my
sir.
homework right?
You did,
Now,
man. I'm impressed.
what's that like, man? What's that like playing high school sports? I know a lot of people that watch wrestling, they're not exactly the athletic type at times. What's that like playing sports in high school?
So it's funny because freshman, sophomore year of high school, I was actually in the marching band, and then sophomore year, I was sitting in the stands. I just remember one game, I was like, man, I should be on that field. I was just thinking, I was like, man, this is kind of like it was nice. Like I got some of like my closest friends from marching band who are still like close friends to this day. But I was like, man, like this is I don't feel right up here. Like I was starting to hit my growth spurt. Was getting in the gym. I was like, no, it's time to play football. It's actually time to be on the field. So junior year, I really didn't get too much playing time. As I was still trying to like learn the ins and outs of the team and stuff. But senior year, got a good amount, and man, it's just such a rush, like hearing like the crowd like roar and stuff, and like like wearing your jersey around all day, Friday going to classes and stuff. And then of course just like the bond of the team. And my senior year, we were really good. Like we won our county like championships and stuff. We made it to districts. We got eliminated in the first round, but still, it was we were good. It was a blast. We were a close knit group of seniors at the time. And we just had a really good team. It was just so much fun, man. Just
So did you
absolutely fun.
did you play like Pee Wee football or and got
Um,
out of it for a little bit? Or is that your first football exposure?
yeah. So in fourth grade, I played 1 year of Pee Wee football. And the team went 0-10. I was like, this is awful. I hate this. Like, I was like, I like football, but like, I don't like losing. So I was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Shifted mainly to focusing on basketball at the time, and then went back to football. Like I said, sophomore year of high school. I was like, man, like I gotta give it another go. Like I don't want to just be like feel like just in band my whole my whole high school career.
Okay, so then you play Pee Wee football in fourth grade, you get out of it for a little bit, and then you're in the marching band, and you think, I want to play football, and as crazy as that is, right? That's awesome. But what the crazy part is you get lined up in the defensive backfield, which I have to think is probably one of the most stressful spots to be on the field. How did you end up there? Did you want to get there, or was it how did you end up in the defensive backfield here?
Yeah. So originally junior year they had me at cornerback, but I just knew myself. I was like, I'm probably not too athletic enough to play cornerback. And then senior year we got a new head coach, and he saw me, and at this point I'm like 6 foot, like 170. He's like, you're a safety, like you're not playing corner. The position he had me playing safety wise, it was like a hybrid between like a safety and outside linebacker. So just depending on like the coverage and stuff, how do you roll down or I'd stay up high. Um, so um, I I didn't really get too crazy much playing time as a safety. Actually, my senior year, I got most of my playing time on offense at tight end. But yeah, a couple of injuries or whatever. I was playing a little safety, just enough to get recruited. So,
Yeah.
um, you
Thank
know,
you.
yeah, yeah, worked out in the end. But
And how's your high school coach? Is he the traditional like guy that you're gonna watch in the movies where he's super motivational, or how is he?
um, he just had a really good football mind. He came from actually a college program, which was nice, where like he won like national championships at like the JUCO level and stuff. But
Wow.
his kids are like growing up, and he's like, I don't want to be too far away from my kids, so like high school coach, and he actually just retired this past year because his kids are playing high school now, and he's like, I don't want to like miss their games because I'm coaching on Friday nights. So
Right.
he was more of just like kind of like explain to you what you did wrong type of guy, but like if you make the same mistake twice, then that's when like he'd snap at you like you don't make the same mistake twice with Coach Laux kind of
You
guy.
start running the steps real quick every day, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So okay, so you're out of high school and you get to Misericordia, and what makes you choose that? Why do you end up in Dallas,
Um,
Pennsylvania?
so I don't know, like if you had this experience when you went to Full Sail for the first time, but you just like kind of stepped on campus, like you're just walking around seeing the people, and you're like, wow, this just feels so right. Um,
Yeah.
so I just
Yep.
remember sitting in the admissions office after I just took my tour. I was like, Mom, this is where I'm going. Because it was me and my mom on the tour, and she's like, okay, yeah, like let's see what financial aid and stuff is. And thankfully they gave me a nice like academic package. Even though I was an okay student in high school, like I got like good grades and stuff, but not I was never like top of class or anything like that. So like the academic package they gave me kind of blew me away. Only to find out that the head coach's wife works in admissions, so she might have had a little bit to do with that.
That helps.
Yeah, so like, I wasn't complaining. So,
No.
but yeah, it was fun. Like I said, I didn't play an extreme amount in high school. So, Misericordia and like two other schools, like JUCO schools, were the only ones who really offered me. But Misericordia was the only school I really looked at for football. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Like talking to the coaches and stuff, talking to a couple of the guys on the team, I really just felt right there and talking. And I sat in one of the classes as well, and I was just really impressed by it.
Yeah, it's really good. You talk about like getting onto campus, and I did feel that at Full Sail, where you get on there and it's not even like it wasn't even literally like a championship feel. Like, yes, I did it. It's more like I'm comfortable. This
Yeah.
is good. I can learn here. And it didn't really matter about like if they had won the national championship or you become an adult real quick in that decision where you're like maybe 4 years before when you're in ninth grade you're like I want to go to like a championship football team so I can go to every game and then you start
Mhm.
thinking like no I have to learn, this is like a future here that I have to to
Yeah,
invest in,
exactly.
but it's comfort that I think led me to want Full Sail. And it's something that it's really weird to think about when you think about colleges. You're like, man, I want to on the list of things you think about, comfort is not one of them, but it seems to be that's the biggest one. You get into the sports management um degree here in program, should I say, in Misericordia. Why did you choose sports management? Was it something that just in your history of playing sports in general?
Kind of a combination of that, and plus, growing up, I was always like the big like sports statistician, like the big sports nerd. Like I'm pretty much like was kind of I don't know if notorious is the right word for it, but I was just kind of like known for that. Like especially like middle school or early high school, where it's just like oh like I don't know. I remember there was one time specifically. Ed Reed caught an interception. A big Ravens fan. I was like, "Oh, that's Ed Reed's eighth interception this year." 5 seconds later, the announcer, Ed Reed just caught the eighth interception, or just finished his eighth pass this year. And I was like, "Wow!" Like I knew that before the announcer even did. I was just like rapid fire like that. My friends call me the Rain Man of sports. Like so, it was just sports were always just a huge part of me. Both like when I was playing and just like studying and researching. So I was like, sport management's perfect. Getting a career in that field one day.
So you're the guy I want on team trivia night when the sports
Yeah,
section comes up.
yeah. When the
You're
sports
the
question
dude.
come up, I was a guy.
Was that like just pro sports, or when you watch a sports game, like if you're in high school, for instance, or college, and you're watching a game, are you like, oh god, that guy's 3 for 5? I know he is. He hit a double 2 innings ago, like, or you know what I mean? Like, you just sit there and watch a game like that, or is it just
Uh,
something that sticks with you? How do
um,
you do that?
when I was
Tell
younger,
me.
I definitely was like, oh my god, like say like basketball, like oh my god, he's only shooting like roughly like 30% right now. Like he's got to pass, like he's got to get the ball off, like. But then like getting more into college, I just try to enjoy it more as a fan because I kind of hated how his game was just like overly critical about everything. So it's like at the end of the day, like they're playing for fun. I mean, they're playing obviously at the pro level, like they're playing for money and stuff, but like with contracts, but which is like at the end of the day, like it's sports, it's fun. Like I shouldn't have to dissect it this hard.
Yeah. It's fun too, though. You
Yeah.
can with college sports, you played football. What's the differences between the high school level and the college level?
The biggest well, there's two biggest difference I'd say. Besides like obviously the size of the kids. So the speed of the game is much faster when you get to college. And then having to actually learn the playbook in college is a lot more difficult because like we could have like say like 10 base coverages, but depending on what the receiver does or what like the offensive lineman does, like whoever we're keying, like reading that point, there could be like five different things different we could do. Like oh, the receiver runs a slant. Okay, now I gotta sit like 8 yards or so. Like, oh, the receiver is going to block. Okay, well now I gotta fill the alley. Like, there's just a bunch of different responsibilities within each coverage.
And
That
is like high school football, is it a slimmer playbook, or is it that there's not those variations that you consider? You consider going out 10 yards and hooking around for like a hook. You know what I mean? Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like do you not get the variations in high school as you would in college?
Yeah. So in high school, like I maybe had like three variations to do and like maybe like five plays to learn. Like it was
Yeah.
very basic, pretty much because kids were trying to learn offense too at that point. Like you played both ways in high school. So they didn't want to like overwhelm you. College though, you only play on one position. So it's like, okay, here's everything. Like we want to throw these offenses so many different looks. And then it's like half the time we get to the game and it's like, okay, we're gonna run like six different defenses instead of like the 15 we put in. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My buddy Adam played college football for a little bit, and he said that the study hall really helped him. He said if he didn't play football, he probably wouldn't have graduated college because they're so stringent. It was that the case in Misericordia where they like did they have scheduled study halls for you guys, make sure that you did your work, or was it kind of on you?
yeah, so as a freshman, you're required to go to study hall, and then if you're a sophomore above, if you didn't have, I think it was either like a 3.0 or a 2.5, if you didn't have like a certain grade percentage, then you have to go to study hall as well. And that definitely helped me my first year. And then I got good enough grades where I had to go like sophomore through senior year. But that first year, it was like, yeah, like it's nice just to like block out some time just to focus on schoolwork. And one of our assistant coaches would always be there, and he was a teacher at a local high school, so a math teacher. So like any like math stuff, which a lot of kids struggle with
Yeah, oh,
at
yeah,
first. So
I'm
he was
there.
there to help answer their questions, which was really nice.
Yeah, no, I'm in the remedial of the remedial math class. I can tell you that. I'm still back in 11th grade, even though I'm a sophomore in college. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So, and that's important. You know, the first year, making you do that because a lot of kids can't make that transition. You know, and especially for you and just like I moved to a new town, and you've got to realize, as stupid as it is, you know, where's the grocery store and where's the pizza place and where's there to get beer? I mean, let's just be honest.
hmm
You know,
Yeah.
there's different things you have to consider. What was the toughest transition for you in terms of like moving cities? Was there something you're like, man, this is tough?
Yeah. So actually the very like it was within the first 3 days of me getting to Miz for football camp freshman year. So within the 3 days, me and my girlfriend had just broken up. Like I think my first day in, like we kind of realized it wasn't gonna work out. My dog died, and then I celebrated my 18th birthday, and like nobody knew. It was just went from
Is that where the band strikes the country song? Because that's a country song right there.
yeah. That
Anyway,
probably is a country song somewhere. I just gotta Google it somewhere, find it. But yeah, it was literally just like a combination of all those three things at once. And I just remember saying in my room, I was like, man, if I can get through this, like I can get through anything that school throws at me. So I just kind of like took it as best as I could at that point, and ended up working out. Like spent 4 years playing college ball there. Absolutely loved it. So
what was do you remember? Okay, so I played hockey, and every time that you'd get off the ice, usually people just like go for a stroll, you know, like around the entire rink. Like, okay, now I can go and get done. And I remember like my last stroll ever. And thankfully we won the championship. This was the last game I ever played. But I remember like going through all these like and this is probably gonna maybe get into the corny level of me, but like I felt emotional like doing that, like coming off the field for the last time because I'm like, it's kind of a chapter in your life where you're like, okay, I was a kid and I played sports, and I was a young adult and I played sports, and now it's like, is this what I'm gonna have to do, is carry a briefcase and go into a cubicle every day? Is that what's gonna happen? Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it was sad for me. Did you get that feeling when you walked off the field in Misericordia and had to take off the pads for the last time?
yeah. So my senior year, one of the very last games. Oh, it was like the third to last game of the season. I got hurt. And like my foot was like all swollen up. So I couldn't play the next two games, and the final game ended up being a bowl game. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna get cleared for the next two games at least. I was like, if I can at least come back for the bowl game. My foot still wasn't healed at the time, but there was one onside kick that coach let me get on. so I could just kind of like get on the field. My roommate for 2 years, he was the kicker, so we just like I was like lined up next to him. It was just like kind of like we could have that like moment together. And like I just remember, we didn't get the ball. We were down like 2 touchdowns, like we lost the game, but it was just nice, kind of just to, like be on the field and just be like, man, like just kind of like look up at the scoreboard, look up at the fans and stuff, just one last time. So
Yeah,
definitely
it's
got the
something.
moment.
It's something real, man. I mean, you put in a lot of hours, getting good at a craft and taking care of yourself and making sure you know the plays and making sure that you get to practice on time. And um, it's something real, man. It is. It's a feeling that's raw, and a lot of people that don't play sports wouldn't know. I don't think how to feel about that, but it is a real thing. So during Misericordia, you're going to talk to your guidance counselor and he's going to give you some advice. What's going on here? What's this talk?
Yeah, so junior year, I'm looking for possible internship opportunities because senior year's approaching. Like, I gotta figure out I need 12 credits worth of internship to graduate. And so I was talking to him, and he's like, "Well, what do you really want to do?" I was like, "Well, I really want to get like into wrestling. Like, I'm like big WWE. Like, want to be like a backstage kind of guy for them." Like, okay, well, maybe WWE isn't realistic because you don't have anything in your resume right now. But like, look smaller. Like, look what's around here. If there's anything, I was like, you know what? That's actually a really, really good idea. Like, I'm gonna see like if there's any like indie companies around here. And so I looked wrestling companies. You know, the very first one popped up, Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling. I looked. I was like, oh wow, they have like a pretty legit looking website. Like, I was looking through the roster page. I was like, looks like they got some like guys like Bully Ray was listed as the champion at the time. I was like, oh man, like Bully Ray's here. Like
Well,
that's
that's
sweet.
not bad.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so then there was a contact us page, and I just fill it out real quick, like, hey, I'm this junior from local school. I was wondering if you have any availability, possibly for me, just like learn under you. A couple of days later, I got a message from you, and you're just like, we have a show this upcoming Saturday. Come be there if you're available. And that show, it was the day of our bowl game of junior year. And that year we were really good. We went 8-2, but lost our quarterback a couple weeks before. So we knew we really didn't have that good of a shot. And plus, we only got to practice like twice because of snow. So weren't feeling good going in. Ended up losing that bowl game 70-14.
Ooh.
Got absolutely destroyed. Never got reamed out so bad by a coach in my life after that game. And I remember I was just like bitter, was just pissed off, and I was like, oh shit, it's like 7 o'clock already. All right, I guess I should get going down to wrestling. So
I'll take my terrible mood and drive down to Hazleton.
yeah, I had no idea where Hazleton is at this point. Like I passed it going up 81, but I was like, I've never actually set foot in Hazleton, and I was just like,
Right.
oh, all right, here we go. So yeah, that was not fun at first, but we got
Oh
through
my
it.
God.
And yeah, eventually met you. It'll help tear down.
Yeah, I remember when you contacted us first. And it was funny because you were actually the confirmation I needed to Paul Bow, where I was like, we have to figure out how to make this website show up the first on Google because we're going to get a lot more fans. And if anybody wants to help with like production or help get on and even just get on the show, we're going to be the first ones that they see. And I love when you tell the story because you're like, oh, well, it's the first one that popped up. And I'm like, yes. a little nerd part of me goes, yes, thank gosh. But really, it was really awesome that you came in. And I remember the first show you came in was the Brian Cage and Tessa was there. I don't remember what the name of the show was. But
Vision.
there you go. I see. I said that because I was testing you and I knew you were going to know it. And I remember like, it's funny how everybody remembers their first show, you know what I mean? And like the name and like what day it was, and like how they were feeling. How are you feeling coming to this one? I mean, I know you lost the game, but then you kind of switch into wrestling mode, right? And are you excited? Are you nervous driving down 81?
So I was definitely excited at first. I was like, okay, like I can forget about that. Like if I can just meet some new people, meet the Scott guy, and just kind of see what this is all about. It was definitely kind of like mainly excited. I'd say I wasn't too nervous. I was just like, the biggest thing I was worried about was like, man, where the hell do I park? That was the biggest thing when I got to Hazleton.
That's always a consideration. And still, after 4 years, I can't answer that. I have no idea. I don't know where you park. Yeah, so we come in, and let's scale way back real quick before we get into the first PPW show. What was is this your first live event for wrestling, or did you go as a kid? What was your first live show?
So down in New York, when I was like 5 or so, there was some independent wrestling shows. And my mom worked the post office. So one of the promoters like came to the post office like, "Hey, like I know your kids into wrestling and stuff," or you must have gotten on topic. Like, "We're having a show this Saturday." So that was my very first one. I don't know
How
what the
cool.
name of the show was, but I know it was like Dirty Deeds. He's the guy who trained. I know Alex knows of Dirty Deeds, and Rich was trained by Dirty Deeds. He was the guy who was like running this first show that I ever went to, and then since then, like I was a big like WWE guy. Like anytime they came to like Hershey or Baltimore, like I was there.
Mm,
Sometimes
yep.
even Philly.
So wow, that's interesting. So your first live show was an independent wrestling show. It wasn't a WWE show, a house show that they came. It was actually an independent show.
Mhm.
Do you remember, like, did you meet any of the wrestlers there that night, or were you just like, "Can I touch the ring?" Like, I remember, like, when I came, like, I wonder if they'll let me touch the ring.
Yeah, actually,
Or
that's
anything like that.
you bring that up. So, Jimmy Snuka was the name they brought in, at the time. So, I got my T-shirt autographed by him.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I didn't bring anything that would get autographed. I got a T-shirt autographed. And then I don't know if it was at the very end of the show or like intermission or something like that, but they had like all like kids come in like dance in the ring with like the people like with some like the wrestlers and stuff. So got to be in the ring. I like always thought like I make like that big like cane like entrance climb over top rope, and I was like, wow, these things are huge. Like I could go and go through like the first rope at a time. So
The middle rope still to this day is like, I gotta hop over it.
I checked it out. I was like the middle rope's like perfect like hip level for me where I can like get over it without any issue.
That's wild, dude. So you're in the ring, you're like, "I need one of these at home." That's what
Yeah.
I need.
Oh yeah. I got the closest thing as a trampoline. So that was my
Is
day
that
in
where
the
all the
ring growing up.
wrestling shows is that where all the wrestling shows down at the France house went down? On the
Oh yeah.
trampoline?
Yeah, like half the neighborhood would come and we'd have like whole like wrestling matches and stuff.
I remember, like, one of the first events that I ever went to, it was just here's my age. I'm older than you now, obviously. They used to film like Superstars and Wrestling Challenge and stuff all in the same night. And I went there to Binghamton, and I remember forever. I will always remember Greg Valentine's music hitting, and it was just like this stupid theme song where it was like this hammer hitting an anvil, right? And it was nothing. But I was like, oh my God, this is big time right now. And I took my girlfriend, it was back like 2015 to Philly. And before the show starts, I'm like, this was an important thing for me as a kid, where like the first time you hear the theme music come over the arena, you're like, whoa. And then I got Zack Ryder going woo 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 as the first part of that. And I'm like, okay, that didn't land well. Do you remember a moment where you were at the show and you were like, holy cow, like this is really cool, like to go to live. Like this is even better than watching on TV.
Um, None of that indie show I was talking about, I don't really remember too much from that. Like I just remember getting in the ring at one point. But the first like WWE show I went to was I think it was Backlash in 2006 where Kurt Angle and Undertaker
Yeah.
had a really good match. It was like right before Mania time, and Kurt Angle and Undertaker tore the house down. But Batista came back because he was hurt at the time. Like he came back for a quick promo, and I got on the big screen because I was like bowing down to him, like I was like doing like one of these things. And I just look over, I see me on like the big screen. I was like, I made it! Like oh my god! Like I'm gonna be a superstar! Like I thought it was the coolest thing.
You've got some pretty cool firsts, man. An indie wrestling show for the first time, going to a pro wrestling show, and then being on the screen at a pay-per-view. You debuted at the pay-per-view. You went to the first. Man, I'm kind of jealous. I got to be honest with you. That's pretty good stories there. So okay, so let's get back to the PPW timeline. I told you I'm not good at this, so we're gonna head all over. It's a twister. But you contact me, and it is Brian Cajun and Tessa are there. It's PPW Vision. You walk in. Who do you meet first? Do you meet me first, or do you meet Paul? What's your first? You walk into the building. What is it?
I believe the first person I met was Rob Miller. So, because he was working on the ticketing at the time, and I was like I walk up and Jack Swagger's just coming out for the main event. It's Swagger versus Alpha, And I was like, holy shit, Swagger's on the show. I didn't even like notice that. And then so I'm talking to Rob, and he was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for Scott. Find out, like, do you know where Scott is? And he's like, he'll be available like after this match is the main event. Like, you can just sit up in the bleachers real quick and grab him afterwards. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, think I don't gotta pay for a ticket because I didn't bring any cash with me. And then the main event happens. It's a pretty good match between Swagger and Alpha. And then I remember just like looking around, and you were just nowhere to be found at first. And I was like, oh, crap. All right. Well, what if he's not even here? What if I just drove all this way for nothing? Like, just put me in even worse mood.
Is there even a Scott Fineout? Is there even a
Yeah,
real person?
they just get catfish and wrestling.
Sadly,
Like,
there is. He catfished in wrestling. Like, I'm here to meet somebody I don't, who no one's here by that name.
I know
You
he's
guys
got
are
his name
crazy.
Scott.
All right, so then I don't even remember, to be honest, how we got into Tom Mitchell being the backstage commentator. Was that something you brought up to me?
No, so this is at the Impact show actually. Impact, they needed a backstage guy.
That was
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and they wanted you. You remember? They wanted you at
Yeah.
first to do it,
Yep.
and you're like, no, we got this kid who we like. We just don't know what to do with right now. Come show day, and we actually would really think he'd go do well as a backstage announcer. So that's kind of how that happened for me. And then
Yeah, I remember. I didn't remember that was. I thought you were doing commentating before that. That's funny because I remember Jimmy Jacobs coming up to me and he's like, "Yeah, we want you to do some backstage stuff." I didn't want to do it, dude. Like, I didn't want to do it. Like at the time, like I now too, I have long hair and I didn't have a hat on, and I grow my hair out for the cancer for the kids, and I cut it every whatever. Right? It's not for style, so I don't like it. So I'm like always wearing a hat, and he's like, "Yeah, just throw your hat on." I'm like, "Oh, that's gonna be a killer." Okay, so I got this guy. He's amazing. I remember I'm like, he looks way better than me, dude. Like a good looking guy. He knows how to talk. He's everything that you'd ever want. He's dressed up better. I sold the shit out of it, and I tried it. That was the thing, like with the Impact show. I've always been told, like, when you get in situations like that, for me, I don't really care about the Impact show. I thought that there was a lot of other people that would have appreciated it more. And I thought there was a lot of other people that could have been impacted by it more. So I tried to get everybody else on, and got Paul on commentary for a little bit, but I sat back, man. But I wish you would have gotten that shot because you would have killed it. You really would have. You would have killed it. And I wasn't just giving that. I wasn't giving your name to get out of it. I was giving your name because I thought you genuinely would have killed it better than I would, and I was like, let's just throw this kid into the Shark Tank and see if he can swim around them all. And I think you would have. So okay, so you become the PPW commentator. We're like, hey, that's probably a good idea to do this on High Voltage from now on. So yeah, I remember you had a really good um, chemistry, I guess is the word I'm looking for, with the arrogance of excellence. And
yes.
yeah, you did some really cool work with them. Talk about working some, the first show that you did as a commentator and who you kind of gelled with the most.
So the very first show, I gotta give a lot of credit to Tyler because Tyler Hurlbert, he was the one who actually helped me would go up to like the rest and be like, hey, like we need an interview, like I'm the interview guy. Giant Moran and Clutch Adams are two of the easiest guys to work with in PPW. Like they're always like, yeah, man, like whatever you need, like I got you.
Yep.
And they're the tag team at the time, and I didn't really know them, but at least I didn't know them then. So when I interviewed them, they were just super cool, and like I could just tell like Moran and Clutch play off each other really well, and I was just kind of like there, just kind of be like that like awkward guy, like oh man, like these like two like huge dudes because they are big dudes, and it's just like I kind of just gotta be like wow, like there's a reason they're the champ kind of.
Yeah. Do you
So
so like when it records, they're like, okay, you're on. Like, do you just fall into a zone, or are you like, okay, like, do you know
um
what you're gonna say, or how does that happen?
so it's funny because some people like I kind of have a base idea of what I'm gonna say, and the other one's just like, all right, we need an interview. All right, I'm gonna think of something on the fly. You're gonna say something on the fly kind of thing. Just make it 30 seconds or 60, whatever the case is. Um, but yeah, most of the time though, it's just kind of like on the fly, like, hey, can I get an interview real quick? Sure. And it's just like, oh, okay. They said sure. All right, now I gotta think of something real quick to ask them.
No, it's tough. It's a tough
Mhm.
job. It's a tough job, and you got to get a lot of wrestlers over, and not get yourself over. And I think that's what you did good. Is you have what everybody talks about is the jackets, which are flawless. Where do you get these jackets at? Everybody wants to know. Everybody asks me this question. I don't have an answer for them.
All right, so there's a bunch of different places. Honestly, I got a pretty diverse jacket shopping collection. So I got the very first one I wore to PPW, like that, like salmon pink one. That was from Bonton when Bonton was going out of business. They I just remember seeing like jackets there. My mom's like, "Oh, you need like professional jackets for like interviews and stuff." And I saw that one. I was like, "No, I need that one." I was like, "That's a jacket I want." I ended up getting like a black jacket or whatever. And then I don't know. I just always collected ties as well. So I had a pretty big tie collection I could mix in. And then the ones that I had in January, it was like the blue one that like glittered and like you could change colors and
Oh,
stuff.
I love that one. Yeah, yeah.
That was actually a Christmas gift from my grandma. She had another one like that. That was good debut at the Super Show. I'm not gonna say what color it was, but I was good. My plan was to debut that Super Show.
So your
3.
grandma gave you the blue jacket.
Yeah. Yep.
And she knows like the gimmick. Like she's all in.
Oh, she loves it. She thinks it's hilarious. The whole family thinks it's hilarious what I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how's your family take that? Do they be like, oh my god, it's ridiculous? Or are they like, you're really doing good, keep going? Is it like a supportive thing, like where they're like, keep going with this, or do they want you to do something else?
Only one who like has hesitancies is my dad. He's like, "Oh, well, you're not getting paid, like and stuff." I'm like, "Dad, like first of all, like I'm having fun right now, and second of all, I'm learning way more than like I ever would have like expected to." Um, so like I was like, I'm not stressing about pay. Like I just want to like enjoy, like have fun, like meet new people, and like I get to like talk to like these, like I don't know, say like a Summer Rae or like Dee Malenko or Coco Beware, like these people who like I saw when I was a kid. Like I just get to talk to them, interview them. So I don't know. Besides my dad, everyone else is super supportive.
Yeah, I've seen
Oh,
your dad be supportive online though. You know, he likes your stuff every now and then, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's definitely supportive. Like with what I do. I guess I phrased it wrong. He supports me with like wrestling. He's just like, oh well, like yeah, look
Go
for
get
some of
that
the pay.
cheese.
Like yeah,
Yeah. I can't blame him. I really can't. I'm still looking for that paycheck, to be honest with you. All right. So you get into wrestling, and you talked about how many people you got to talk to. And I remember telling my friend about Coco Beware coming in. And I was like, yo, yeah, we're gonna do a show with Coco. And he's like, with who? And I'm like, Coco Beware. He's like, oh my God. He's like, gets excited because he's like a little older than me. So like he's down with like the old Coco Beware before the Birdman. Even he used to be a legitimate wrestler, like the Mid-South. I mean, he's a legitimate wrestler as the Birdman, but you know what I mean, no gimmick
yeah.
or whatever. And he was like really excited. And then I had that in my head when you were interviewing him. I'm like, man, Mitch has got to be excited. I'm like, probably not actually, because the Birdman's way before you. Was there a guy that you recorded or girl that you had an interview with or an interaction with where you're like, holy cow? You know what I mean?
So Molina is probably the one for me. Where I was like, holy cow! Like I thought she was like the prettiest thing growing up. Like she was like right there. Like it was my teenage years. It was like when she was like really big, and I was like oh my god, like, and I get to like talk to her, and she's like the sweetest, like most down to earth person. Literally, just like we were just talking just about life in general for like 15 minutes. I was like, it was really cool because like most times I never meet your idols, but like I want to consider her an idol, but like I was just like, wow, like she's just like the coolest person I would never expect it, especially like when you're reading online, you hear like these bad stories about people and stuff, and like no, Melina was like an absolute sweetheart. So
What have you learned through this whole process of like having to learn on the fly? I mean, let's be honest, you are learning on the fly. You've adapted real well, but there's still some things that we all have to learn. And you didn't really get like a, hey, here's commentating 101 for the wrestling business. Like sit down and take notes. Like you just learn. What did you learn about yourself doing this whole thing?
I learned just how much fun it can be just to be comfortable in your own skin. So Tom Mitchell is like my like geeky weirdness turned up to 1,000. Like how they say the best wrestling gimmicks is just you times 1,000. Like that's just like my like weird like quirky self times 1,000 is pretty much Tom Mitchell. Where I'm just kind of like, oh, like what's going on over here? Like I'm like listening in, trying to figure out what's going on. So what I learned is just like how much fun like you can just be like as yourself, and like people will embrace you and people will still like you. And if they don't, then like it's like at the end of the day, like it's not gonna like affect you too much. Like, you know, you just keep being yourself, just keep having fun doing what you're doing, and you'll have fans or you'll have detractors. But luckily for me, I've had mainly fans. So
Yeah, the you have had a lot of fans. I think it's, as far as the television show is concerned, the professionalism that you put on the screen really does a lot for the show. So I really do, and that's why you do have fans. And you're like, oh my god, this guy, not only is he dressing like Craig Sager every time, and he's like just looks like a crazy, right? Like you get attention and it works. Have you ever thought about doing other things in there? Have you had a passion for wanting to manage? Have you had a passion for wanting to commentate? Are there other things, or are you like, I found my thing and I'm gonna I'm gonna keep doing this thing?
I mean, one of the things I wanted to learn was how to take a bump in case like I ever really like in case someone really wants to get physical with me, like that way I know I like protect myself. So that was one of the things where like, especially early pandemic, I just couldn't think of it. I was like, man, like how cool would it be like even like show up in a rumble or something like that, and like get the shit
Paul
kicked out
Bo
of me.
did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Paul, EJ,
They wanted me to do
somebody
it. I
did it.
said, there's absolutely no chance of it happening. There's no chance of it happening. I'm not jumping over that top rope. Listen, I'm a goalie. Okay. I don't jump over boards. I don't jump over anything. Okay. I stand flat footed. That's all I do. That's what Scots are built for. But it'd have been cool, to bring Tom Mitchell. Could you imagine Tom Mitchell with the blue sparkly suit, walking down? Oh man, you'd get a hell of a pop. You would. I know you're too humble to admit it, but you'd get a huge pop. You would.
It's funny
I
because that's
think
actually the show I wore my blue suit. That was the Rumble show.
now part of the part of the other thing that you do here that a lot of people don't know is the website stuff. Now people know that you write for the website, but you've had to learn a lot in terms of the backstage of professional wrestling. And just, I mean, we call it 2 years, right? But
Mhm.
it's really a year of work where you're learning on the fly for a year. What did you learn in your first year in terms of how the wrestling business worked? Were you somebody that was like, I figured this out because I read it all, or were you like, oh, that's how they do that?
One of the things I didn't realize is just how much the wrestling business is constantly changing, and how like things can change in the blink of an eye, and how you always gotta be ready for it. So like for example, Super Show, no, PBW sixth anniversary show, excuse me. They Big Cass was originally supposed to fight Clutch Adams, I believe it was the match. And of course, like Cass the weekend before, like got into like he had some like kind of altercation backstage, and like he was entering rehab, and it was just like crap, well, there goes one of our main marquee matches. And it's like the day before the show, oh, all of a sudden Devon's here. Hey, Mitch, I'm gonna need you to write something for that real quick. Just like announcing Devon Dudley's coming. It's just like, all right, like heads a million miles an hour. But then in October, I remember it's like the next month there was 2 shows back to back, like weekends, and the Impact show, like 2 weekends after the second show. So I just remember having to like constantly crank out stories and stuff for that. So I just constantly just like in a state of flux where it's just like card really is subject to change up to the very last minute was one of the things I didn't really realize.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say that. Card subject to change, both inside the ring and behind the curtain, and more so behind the curtain where things change. I remember a ton of things where we were supposed to get. Oh, who was it? Adam Rose was supposed to come here. I think this maybe predated you, but he was supposed to come, and he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I can't. My flight's wrong." So we had to. He was going to be an hour late, and then we had to write the show for that, and then he was going to be 2 hours late, and then we realized that he was just messing with us, and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't coming at all. And it's like, oh, this is fun. Like, so wrestling has a lot of things like that, where a lot of the fans who might be sitting in the third row don't really understand all the stuff that comes into it. They see what happens on the show and they go, oh, well, that's stupid. And it's like, well, yeah, most people behind the scenes think that too, because this guy didn't show up and he didn't bother to
Mm-hmm.
call. You know what I mean? you've always been professional in that regard. I really appreciated that working with you at PPW. And what do you think? What do you think you plan on doing here in the future? Or do you plan on branching out from PPW? Are you gonna stay? I mean, with PPW exclusively, or is Tom Mitchell looking to move on? What do you see here in the next couple of years for you?
I mean, honestly, kind of what Paul does is kind of what I want to do. Whereas, as far as like where he's like mainly PPW, like people know him as like PPW's guy, but also goes to like true shows or like PWE. Like he'll like go to different shows like as like they kind of need him if they want got offering. So I think what Paul does is great. Like I'm a PPW guy like through and through. Like obviously like I help with you building up like the website, like the social media, things of that nature. So like obviously PPW has a big part of my heart wrestling wise. So but when I first joined PPW, like the goal was WWE, but I don't think that's as realistic as it is now. Like so I'm just mainly I'm definitely gonna be a PPW guy now from here on out. And then if I can get other bookings around, then sweet.
You hear that? He's looking for other bookings, people. You get them. You will. You will get them. I know you will. And it's cool that's how I feel. Like not towards PPW. I mean, I love PPW, but it's my first company was 3DW, which has long been gone, and it had nothing to do with the Dudley Boys. But it was an awful name. But I'll always remember that November 29th, 2011 show. See, where you kind of have that piece of your heart in that promotion where it's like I cut my teeth here. They gave me the break. They deserve it, for me to be there. So I dig that about you as well, with being loyal to the people that brought you. And I remember the first night that you were there. I think you went out to Applebee's with us that night. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm like, here's the thing, like. The show is cool to go to Applebee's now, like afterwards, because you're gonna meet a lot of people there that are gonna help you out quite a bit. And that's I think when Paul went and me and you and Alex I think was there even.
Yeah, there's the Wicked Pearls there.
Yeah.
Remember that?
What is that like for you? Because like for me, when I went to Evolve, I was like you. I didn't know anyone, and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna suck. I just got to sit here and watch everybody else interact with everybody else.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
honestly that's what I was afraid of when I first got there. But I gotta give a lot of credit to you because you're actually like talking to me and like asking me questions and stuff. So I wasn't just sitting there like, oh god, here's like 10 people I don't know. With like when does my food get here kind of thing. So yeah, no, you're just asking me questions about like brings you into wrestling, like some favorites, just like just like small talk like that. And it's just like okay, thank God someone's talking to me, and
Yeah,
Tyler was talking to me as well, so it was nice.
Well, I felt for you, man, because like I felt that like even I was going through that moment, with Evolve, like about that time or maybe a year before that, where I was like, oh God, this sucks for this guy. But I think networking in wrestling is huge. And I think the more people the better chances you get on more shows. You've done a good job with networking there and throughout PPW, you're pretty well liked. I know a couple of people that hate, I'm just joking. But there's well, I know a couple fans that might hate you, but that's good. You need a mixture. But yeah, no, I think that was a cool thing. We'd always go down to two guys, I remember, and eat some pizza with some wrestlers and shit, and that was always fun too. I can't wait for wrestling to get back. When it does come back, are you going to be? What's your attitude like? Is it different from before the pandemic where you were just going in a rut, or are you more focused, more balanced? What is it like now for you?
Um, I think that I would be more grateful, because I feel like kind of like getting into 2020, like I was definitely still having like a lot of fun with what I was doing, but it's just like, all right, another show, another tear. Like I was just kind of like used to like the like just like repeating like, all right, here's a show, like instead of just like being like, wow, like you never really know when your last show can be like your last, like just like football, like you never know when like the last play is coming or anything like that. Like one injury, anything, one pandemic can take out your
Right.
whole whole year. So just definitely just being a lot more grateful. And just really just enjoying the time, just like having more fun, like the guys in the back, like with you, Paul, the whole all the owners, like so. Just yeah, just really just being grateful is just the biggest thing that I'm gonna realize when I come back from this.
I think that's something that a lot of people in the business can take from that, from you there, is being grateful. I think a lot of us get into the rut of going to a show every week or 3 shows a week and being like, and it's like, dude, forget all the drama at the Wawa or the guy who cut you off on 81, or remember that you're here and there's like 200 people around the ring that aren't. And that's like something to remember, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that's good for you to keep, because I can tell you, like, being 11 years into this business, you do lose sight of that at times, and I'm guilty of that, where it's like, man, this TV show isn't working, this guy didn't call, he's not showing up, this guy's broke on the highway, the flight messed up because Rich Swan slept in the right from the sleep. Was I too specific there? But you know what I mean? You're like, man, and it's like, yeah, but we get to do this every single month, and that's really cool. A lot of fans don't understand how hard it is to put together a show, and not just on show day, but like you were talking about earlier, is, you know, writing stuff and then rewriting stuff and taking the stuff that you wrote prior down because it's no longer relevant. There's a lot of mishmashing when it comes to professional wrestling, and it's really tough to navigate, man.
Mhm.
You've done a good job with it. I think the future is bright for you, Mr. Mitchell. I really do. And I think, you know, if you ever wanted to get on commentary and start trying to do that, I would vouch for you as well. You know, it's something you should think of. Have you ever thought of doing a podcast? Why are you not on this thing? What's going on here? Why am I forced to do this and you're not forced to do this? What's going on with this?
Hey man, I'm best at talking in like 20 seconds at a time, not for hours at a time. So that's why I have me backstage, you know, just asking, oh, how you feeling about tonight? And showing a microphone in someone else's face. I think that's why they don't have me on the podcast.
Maybe you could do like 20-second clips, and we could just keep watching them. Maybe just, you know, just 20-second cuts of a whole hour-long podcast. And if people can do that, you know, you're onto something, man. No, seriously, you should try it. You really should. I don't mean to be like Alex, and every time I talk to somebody, go, you should do a podcast. But just try it, man. I think you'd be good at it. But hey, man, I appreciate you being on this podcast. This was cool. We're gonna have to do this again. Eventually when I get better at this stuff. But I appreciate you going down this bumpy road with me, not your life, my interview style, and really just kind of giving some people some thoughts. I didn't know you were in a band. I didn't know that you have the coolest first stories of events ever, where you go to an indie wrestling show and then the first WWE show you go to is a pay-per-view. Are you out of your mind, man? How do you get that lucky?
Oh man, it's funny because going into that, like, they didn't even tell me that we were gonna go to that pay per view. Like we were like, oh yeah, we're just going to Baltimore. And ESPN Zone was down there at the time. Like, yeah, we're gonna just have a fun day in ESPN Zone. And it was just like, I mean, you know, big sports guy myself. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, then I was like, wow, we're there for a while. Like something doesn't feel right. And I was like, oh yeah, by the way, like backlashes for like 30 minutes, so we gotta get going. I was like, wait a
That's
second,
awesome.
or not backlash? No way, yeah, that's what it was. Excuse me.
Yeah,
But
that's
still,
awesome. That's so cool, dude. And like, who'd you go with? You went with your brothers?
yeah. So it was my brothers, my mom, my uncle, and then like my uncle's like best friend, and then my aunt as well. So
What do your brothers think specifically about you being in wrestling? I mean, I know you said your family's really supportive, but are your brothers like, yo, stop flexing, or are they like, yo, what are you doing in this business?
So they just think it's fun. Like they like watch my interviews and stuff. I remember when Kelly came though in July. My older brother like loved Kelly. He's like, dude, you gotta give me an autograph from Kelly. You gotta give me an autograph. I'm like, bro, like she's literally having an autograph session. Like you can go up and like talk to her. Like if you come to the event.
Yeah.
I was like, tickets like $20, like autographs like $30, whatever the case was. I was like, pay $50 and you get to talk to like the girl who like you dreamed about ever since you were like 13. So he ended up not coming. Little disappointed in that, but
He got scared.
he did. He got cold feet.
Honestly, if I knew the story between her and Frank Boris and how he had to go to like Ulta and Sephora and every other place under the sun, I'd probably be scared of her too.
Yeah, I
To be
mean,
honest.
and just like backstage of her, like a bunch like the girls were bringing in are like super nice, but like her, like I don't know, you could just kind of tell like she didn't want to be there, like she thought she was above everybody. So,
Yep. Is
I mean,
that like
I hate to shit talk people, but like she's just one of the ones where it's just like man, I don't like that was like one of the ones who was like, oh, like one of the people who I really like thought was like really cool, and WWE is just not a great
Yeah,
person.
not needing to throw any other names out there. It's cool that you did that one. I don't care. But honestly, I mean, if you're hard to deal with, you're hard to deal with. You know what I mean? That's just the bottom
Yeah.
line. Don't be hard to deal with, then I won't have to say it. It's pretty simple. But that have you got that feeling a lot where it's like, man, I can't wait to meet these guys. I can't wait to meet this guy. I watch them on TV all the time. And then it's like, hey man, how are you doing? I'm this and that. And you try to put yourself to, of a good introduction, and you do a good introduction, and they're like, huh. And you're like, man, that sucks. Like, that's a bad feeling, right? Like, have you got that a lot?
I haven't gotten that too much. One, this is sort of similar. Where I kind of got that feeling. Was when Austin Aries and Frank Mir came in. Now, Austin Aries and Frank Mir are both like really cool dudes. I like them. I like working with them. I did interviews with them. But there was one moment where Frank Mir's phone buzz. It was unlike it was on like one of the chairs, like the metal chairs, like it vibrated. Like, what's that vibration? I looked down, and like I think it was like his wife or something texted him, and I was like, oh god, like, and then like we guys kind of both look at the phone, like look up, and like he gives me that look where he's like, I will kill you in your sleep. And I was like, oh my god, like I can like never show my face around here ever again whenever he comes to these shows, or else I'm dead. I don't know
Dude,
what in my godforsaken mind made me look down at that phone, but I remember looking down, I was like, oh my god, I'm a dead man walking. Like, I'm about to get choked out right here in the men's locker room of the Holy Family Academy.
I didn't even talk to Frank when he was here. I talked to Austin. He was a weird cat. He was telling me about how he went to this Halloween party and he dressed as a blind guy. But the thing was, he's such a worker. He's like, I'm gonna work this entire room. They're gonna really think I'm blind. He did it the whole night. And then he's like, yeah, he's like, then the weekend after I'm out and I went with one of my friends, this girl that I know, it was her party, and I went there and was being an asshole, pretending that I was, blind. And then I'm out at this restaurant the week after, and they see me walking around, and they're like, yo, aren't you that blind? And he's like, it was really awkward. And I'm like, this is the conversation he's telling me as I'm like, hey, I'm Scott. A weird dude, a really weird dude. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of characters, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I just feel like wrestling is this subculture, which of awesomeness, but at the same time, there are some crazy cats around this ring, man, and behind that curtain.
I feel like you gotta be just a little bit crazy to be like, all right, yep, wrestling. This is what I want to do. I want to go out, take bumps, and just like put my body on the line for people. So,
Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about being a wrestler?
I have, honestly, yeah.
What's
A lot more when I was younger. I was thinking about being a wrestler, and then I remember like high school. I was looking like if there's any wrestling schools near me, and the only one that was really close by was like MCW, which is like an hour drive. And at the time, like just only had my permanent, like didn't even have my driver's license. So, like, yeah, I probably won't be able to catch a ride like every night. Like,
Tough drive, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
cool. So, did you think that like is that the only thing that stopped it?
it was. And then when I started playing college football, then I was like, man, like I can't like my body, like if I like rest on top of this, like I'm gonna be like paralyzed at 40. So
Yeah, no,
that was kind of my thinking.
I get it. That's why I don't do it. I'm like, I have the pain tolerance of like a 3-year-old. So like I see somebody get bashed in the head with like a light tube, and I'm like, yeah, I'll never be in that match. They're like, oh no, you will in wrestling. You'll do that. You'll eventually do that. I'm like, no, I eventually won't. I will never do this. I'm not doing this. I'm gonna stand on the outside of the ring and I'm just gonna talk shit. That's what I'm gonna do. That's all I'm gonna do. And for some reason, for a decade, this has lasted me. I don't know how that's happened, but no, that's interesting. That's interesting because I could see you as a wrestler, because you're in football and you know how to like train and you know how to like you got good endurance. I'm sure you're in defensive back, for Christ's sake. I mean, there's a lot of things there that would be like, oh wow, that's the next step. But you do backstage real well, both the website and being on the camera. So stay there, man, and do
Yeah.
more of these and get more comfortable. I'm telling you, podcasting's where it's at. It's fun. You can do it. I'm looking for that Tom Mitchell podcast in 2024. I'm giving you 3 years to get better, and then we can go 40-second clips.
Yeah.
How's
We'll
that?
call it Tom Sales or something like that.
I like
Just,
it. You've already
yeah.
got the branding built in. See, man, I got you walking now. We'll get you running. We'll get you there. People want it. Well, hey man, thank you. I really appreciate everything today. We'll do this more. This is the second episode of many, and some people I feel I have more stories that we can go over. I feel you're one of those people, and I feel like we should do this again at some point.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Appreciate you for even inviting me on.
Oh man, no, appreciate all the work you've done at PPW and for me personally, and a good friend, man. So I appreciate that. And I don't know who's going to be on next. I have no idea. We run this by the seat of our pants. So we're just going to, we just hit record when we get people. So, hopefully this one wasn't as bumpy as the first one. That way more people want to come on, but this might be the last episode. Who knows? Not to your fault, to mine.
All right. Well,
Hey.
won't be the best feeling though, knowing I was the last episode. I was the one that got canceled.
All right, then that's confirmed. There's going to be at least one more,
All right,
one
perfect.
more of these. But all right, man.
Perfect.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good talk.
Definitely, man. Thank you.